Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for this nice introduction about me. Yeah. So I'm currently working as an assistant professor at IIT Guwahati, and I'm also holding a role of a guest editor in International Journal of Hydrogen and Energy, where we promote mainly the research related to hydrogen energy, and we see what are the recent trends going in hydrogen energy. And I would like to discuss today a little bit about how this hydrogen can play an important role in this main organization. They have these ESG scores, and how it will help these oil and gas industries to improve their ESG scores. So I have one case study to show as well, where we can have some. So we know that what our ESG is basically, it takes beyond the environmental issues, it also concerned or have include into it the social and the governance issues into it. So it's not only taking out the environment, like only the emissions, but the other sides as well. That is how the socially the people are responsible for the thing, and then the governance, how the organization is giving different roles to different people. So it talks about that and how the decisions and capital investment has to be made. So based on that, people do it. So I have come up with the equation that shows that how you can have this overall ESG score. So I have modified it from some source, and it is being said that it is a score or a factor of three things, that is environment and social and governance. So you rate a company based on this score, and the company which has a higher score, you will say that it's a better company to invest, or you can say that. And then we will see how we take on other things. So what are the different criteria that has been adopted by people? So in the environmental sector, there are different criteria. First, what natural resources you are using, what is the efficiency of that, what are the different emissions, carbon emissions you are emitting, and what you are doing with the pollution or the waste that is being coming out of it, and what are the environmental opportunities you are giving to that. Let's say, for example, sometime we have some waste coming from the industry, and we sell it to the people, and we make some money out of the scrap as well. So that is how we can have this kind of thing. And then the social factor is like what kind of workforce you are using. Human rights and diversity is very important nowadays, that what is your male and gender ratio, female ratio is there. This is very key thing. And then how your supply chain, and in the governance, how independent your board is, your people and diversity in the board as well. This is another key thing. And then some ethics, what ethics the corporate organization are doing. For example, in the companies, mostly those who are in software and other, there's the issues with the data security, how you take into account the data is being secure, that the information that you are taking from the people, are you selling it to some third party, or what are you making money out of it, because we know this is the era of that. So we have to take into that as well to account. So based on that, so my main focus, as I told you, will be mainly on this environmental impact, how we will have. So we know that in overall environmental impact can be a factor of three things, that is how much population we have, and how much the consumption we are making, and then what impact you are making by consuming some source of energy. So if you have a less overall environmental impact, that simply means that you have a higher environmental score. And as we can see from this graph, that these emissions that is coming from fossil fuel are on the higher side, while when we move it through the renewable to the nuclear, we see that the emissions are quite lower than that. So this clearly shows that renewable energy is the primary energy solution. However, it has certain, I would say, drawbacks, and one of the drawback with the renewable energy is that it has a very intermittent and a fluctuating nature, and it is located at some locations as well. So what to do when you have this intermittent and fluctuating nature, and sometimes our demand is not that much, but we are producing more out of that. So what to do in that case? So there is a problem of the storage. So hydrogen can play a very good role in that, because it acts not only as a energy carrier, but it can be also used as a storage media, and we can use in the transportation sector by using fuel cell car vehicles and other things. And it is considered as a clean fuel if it is coming from renewables. Although we are producing around 90 to 95% of hydrogen currently from steam methane reforming in most of the companies, so that is not a clean fuel. So that is one thing. So this is how the mankind has taken their energy. So earlier we used to burn the wood, and then we switched to coal and oil and other things, and we see that clearly that how the carbon hydrogen ratio has been reduced. So at the end of the day, ultimately we are more interested into renewable energies or the carbon free fuels, that could be hydrogen and ammonia or some other fuels. So I'm not going into that what's the role of hydrogen. We all know that it is a good fuel, it's a clean fuel, and it can be used in cement industry or the industries where the high temperature requirement is there, because it gives you a higher temperature when you combust it. So people are and the countries are working continuously on it so that they make themselves energy independent, and then they will have a diversified. Another concept that is coming is that you can sell this hydrogen if you produce it at one place, and you can consider it as a hydrogen bank as well. So let's say earlier we have when we were producing electricity from renewables, we used to sell it to the grid, and grid was giving us some money. But nowadays I have come across the people who are telling me that they are not giving you that much money. So what you do, instead of having that selling the electricity back to the grid, you give them the hydrogen, you produce the hydrogen and give them to them, and they will give you good amount of money. So this way we can have produce hydrogen and do. So my main focus is basically there are lots of methods to produce hydrogen. So our main objective is to look which method will give you based on the conditions, whatever the resources we have. So we know that mostly we use this water electrolysis, that is a PEM based technology, but most of the material that they used are some specific to some locations. For example, some ores, like for example when you look into the lithium ion batteries and other, most of the ores and other things are based in China. So they are very country specific. So the raw material that you required for having those things are based on some other countries. So what we are looking for, some metals or some materials, those are not noble materials. So we are looking for some non-noble materials which are easily available at our location, and we can produce the things, and things were made in India, thing can go into that. So one of the thing that can help us in is to produce hydrogen using some thermochemical cycles. So what are thermochemical cycles? Are basically nothing but they have some chain reactions of chemical reactions being taking place in that, and with the application of some amount of electricity and heat, we produced able to produce hydrogen, and whatever the rest of the material that has been used in cycle has been recycled back. So only that is consumable, we can say that in this case is basically a water is a consumable, which is being basically thermochemically split into hydrogen and oxygen. That is one thing we have. So this is the current cycle people were using for hydrogen production. That is a copper chlorine cycle. I would say it's a kind of a catalyst where you can see there are 4 reactions that is being taking place. That is hydrolysis, thermolysis, electrolysis, and drying. So the process that is electrolysis is basically, as the name is suggesting, electro. So it means that is consuming the electricity, and we know that electricity is a high grade energy. So the challenge is to, as you can see on the temperature side, there is a quite a mismatch in the temperature. So the challenge was how to have this make this electrolysis at higher temperature so that this mismatch can be avoided. And in this regard, we have carried out a research, and we have come up with many cycles, and this is one of the glimpses of that cycle has been there. So I'm just quickly going through that. We carried some experiment in the labs, and we have come over with different schemes, and each scheme has their own advantages and disadvantages, where we can see that what are the advantages and the disadvantages of these schemes have. For example, the one cycle what we propose is that it does not require any membrane. So we know that membrane is again a costly affair. And then one of the disadvantage or the limitation, we could say that one of the process is the batch process. So what we mean by batch process here is that it involves some movements of solids over there. So it is very difficult to move solid compared to liquids and gases. So that is one thing was there. And in the scheme 2, we, with the help of the introduction of the membrane, we make all the processes, the continuous processes. And then the first 2 cycles were on downside from the energy point of view. So they have a less, I would say, higher voltage requirement. So we come up with, we change the phase of the electrolysis, and we find another cycle where the voltage requirement is less. Then again, this thing was there. The process is the batch process. So those were the things. And we did some efficiencies studies as well, and we find what was happening to our cycle, and some cost assessment is done. And we found that our cycle is performing quite well in terms of the cost, but these numbers will change if we increase the production rate and other things. So that is one thing. So just to come back, the first cycle, as I was mentioning, we have a higher temperature requirement was there. So what to do with that? We come up with an idea that why not combine this cycle with some other process, so that we have a kind of a co-generation kind of thing is there. So what we do, basically, we know that now since we are living in an era where we are generating lots of garbage, basically we are generating lots of waste. So, and we are having this renewable energies being there. So we have this waste, lots of wind turbine is there. So once the wind turbine is being, let's say, out of use, what to do with a lot of the copper that has been left with the wind turbine? So what we do to extract the copper from the copper waste, we have many routes to do that, and one of the route that we use is pyrometallurgy, in which we basically heat the copper to its melting point and then we extract out of it. But the temperature requirement is so high because we know the melting point of copper is 1080 degrees Celsius, quite high, quite intensive process. So what we do, I say that give me your copper, whatever the copper you have, I will put it into my cycle and I will give you the pure copper as well as hydrogen out of it. So that is the idea main behind it. So we are come up with this kind of cycles. So although so this is basically a kind of assessment we do and we did. So similarly, we also suggest, last. So this is just an idea to give you that we not only keep it only to hydrogen, we keep it to some other processes as well. Like one of the processes that we took it is to the methanol production, and we found our efficiencies were quite higher. What are the conventional process is that? So I'm not going into this case study. So one case study I just want to show you whatever the score Oil India has. So just numbers to show you, they do some kind of new joinee employees. You can see here Oil India. So you can see that the female they join only 5. But the male was 58. So this number is not as good. So we have to increase this number somehow, that our score will come up in a good way, and we have to create that kind of talent. And so that is one thing I would like to bring to this. And then the score that you were having was around 47.7. I got it from some website. So key reason for your environmental issue, potential solution is that if you use hydrogen from either from nuclear or renewable energy, this will drastically increase your score. So with that, I would say that hydrogen could be a better for you because it will give you better economy, better efficiency, better management, better energy resource, and all those things. So with this, I would like to thank you all. Thanks.